work on the playlist kind of like, what would work with like the mix, but also like what I thought the inspirations of your sound were. So like I had some Punch Brothers on there, but not the right record. And then I was like, yeah, I was like really psyched of like the stuff you were sending me. Especially Zakir Hussain. I was just like, all right, if they don't have something like I want to get that in there, because I saw his show at the Fitzgerald, and it was like one of the best shows I've ever seen. It was I forget the name of Zakir Hussain, and
was it Restoratia?
No, it was. Oh, I need to look it up. This is bad. Because the sitar player was incredible.
Was it recently? Was it Naladri Kumar?
Yes.
Nice, so cool. Good. I couldn't make it, so I was really sad.
It was.
But I've seen Naladri before, and he's awesome.
Yeah, and their chemistry is like, it's just like, not only is it impressive, it's just like this perpetual joy machine, because like they play off each other so well, and it's just watching them. Like there were moments where I was like audibly laughing, which well, you know how that, like, it's just like for people who don't nerd out or play a lot of music, it's just like that's usually why jazz players are laughing on stage. It's just like something is so good that you really don't have any other response other than like, wow. It's just one of those shows. It was great.
Totally. That's awesome.
But yeah, that is where this hop along comes from. Is it so is this a particular song where it's like, oh, I hope they select this song from this album, or is just kind of like you forgot, like, oh yeah, we did put Hop Along on the list, didn't we?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think like those 10 songs are in my, my 10 favorite songs of all time, and so I just heard it and I was immediately like, what is that? And then I was like, yeah, we sent you.
Hop Along is another band I feel like is a little bit overlooked too. Like I wish more people like knew, because like I think they have a really unique sound actually. And I think like it's just like, oh yeah, they're like a college radio band. I'm like, well, I guess, but like there's so much more. Like you just need to check out what they're doing, because I feel like they kind of stem from like a lot of different genres, where I feel like people who like punk and people who like the Grateful Dead could actually get in on this band. Speaking of that, so there's about 1 minute left on this track, and then after it's done, there's going to be like this instrumental thing that I'm just going to talk over. I'm just going to start reading a calendar verbatim. So if there's just a point where I'm like, that's why. But also we will be on the air and all that fun stuff. So yeah, brace yourselves for that. I'm going to try my best to cue what's happening as we go. There's not going to be like any like gotcha moments. It's just live, and sometimes that can be a little bit like we'll be talking about something and it's just like, oh, I have to do a thing. Or if I end up reiterating something from the online chat on air, there's two different audiences, so it's like if there's something I think is like important and it gets redundant, that's also why. But stand by. Hop along here on Desert Islands. If you're just tuning in, this is Desert Islands, the show where I make mixtapes based on my guests' 10 records that they would bring to a desert island. And today's mixtape is for Sprig of That. If you're joining us off mic and online, you're already hanging out with us. But I have them online right now. We're going to be shooting them a little bit. But first, let's talk about the things that are going on this weekend and beyond. If you're in the Twin Cities and you like live music, you can check some good stuff out happening tonight. John Magnuson Trio with Doug Collins and the Receptionist. They're going to be playing the White Squirrel tonight. Thursday, we have Eli Gardner and the Sparks at the 331. Also tomorrow night, Products Sass, Killed by Kiwis. That's a great band name. At the Turf Club. That's at the Turf Club. And Space Between 1 year anniversary. This is a really cool feature. It's been kind of happening monthly at the Hook and Ladder for, I guess, a year now at this point, but it brings in local musicians and talks about mental health and access to resources and just, you know, a general celebration of creativity and community. They're celebrating 1 year at the Hook tomorrow night. Mark Joseph will be playing. Friday, Nerdy Crush release show at Amsterdam. Saturday, of course, we've got the OK Factor and Sprig of That double release show at the Parkway. I will be letting them talk about that because I think they can give us some more details better than I can. But let's finish the calendar, because also Saturday, Gravy. We all know Gravy plays in a lot of great bands, and you might see him around town going live in the pit at local shows. He's celebrating a birthday bash at Mortimer's. His new band Cult Vibes is going to be playing, but we're also going to have Oyster World, another one of his bands, and then Hardcore Crayons and Tacklebox. That's all at Mortimer's. And then Haley and friends. The friends being Diane, Lamar, Tenderness, Ian Martin Allison, Al Church, Jeremy Ilvasacker, and that is all going down at the Hook and Ladder on Saturday. Sunday, the Drip Fundraiser. This is a fundraiser for a good cause and a great lineup. DJ Shannon Blowtorch is going to be spinning all night, but we also have I Self Divine, Pals, Gully Boys, and Polisa. That is at Can Wonderland. And earlier that day, Corpse Reviver at the 331. Looking ahead, Punk Rock Bowling is back at Memory Lanes, and this week's lineup is River Sinclair, RRA, Pit Stop, and Christy Costello. That's a really good mix of really good musicians. Think I missed something? Or you just want to hear me mispronounce your band name on the air? Email it to desertislandskfai@gmail.com. I curate that whole segment from the stuff you send me, so please keep sending me things. And yeah. Let's get to the main event, shall we? So if you have been following Off Mic, I have been talking briefly with my guest Sprig of That, but I believe we are now live with us on the air. Can you still hear me?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Okay. So for those who haven't been hanging out with us off mic, can we just do a quick little introduction, because this is radio and I can see you, but a lot of folks can't.
We're Sprig of That. I'm Isabel. I play violin, fiddle.
My name's Elon. I play guitar.
And my name is Chrissy, and I play tabla.
So thank you so much for coming on the show. I know how crazy release weeks can be, and I know you've also been doing some stuff on the road, so thank you for doing that, but also taking the time to come on here. It's much appreciated. How have the shows been going? I know you've been doing some traveling recently.
Good so far. We played in Chicago this past weekend, and then Appleton, Wisconsin last night. That's where we are at the moment. Headed to Madison tonight, then Milwaukee, and then to Minneapolis.
Yeah, so far so good. New friends, old friends. Yeah. It's been fun to play.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds great. So speaking of old friends, we're going to hear a track off of your latest record. Who did you work with on this one?
We got to work with a banjo player as a producer named Wes Corbett. Wes is, I think these days, most well known for playing in Sam Bush, the legendary bluegrass musician, mandolinist's band. But Wes has been all over the place. He's been living in Nashville for a few years. He was out on the East Coast, and we got hooked up with him to produce the album. And he was producer, coach, arranger, therapist, mentor, teacher, chef. And then, yeah, he really served a lot of roles for us. And he hooked us up with Dave Cinco as engineer. Dave Cinco being really, by this point, to us at least, a legendary engineer. Grammy Awards. You know, he's recorded with all those sort of bluegrass cross-genre chamber music luminaries, the Chris Thiele's and the Edgar Meyers and the Zakir Hussains and the Bela Flecks, and it was really, really wonderful.
It sounds like a really rewarding experience. Where is the studio located? Is this a Minnesota studio, or did you have to go out of state for this?
We went to Nashville. We were at
Wow.
Sound Emporium, which is just a legendary studio. I think
Yeah, that's a
one of
great
the things
studio.
they're most well known for is they recorded the "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou" soundtrack.
Yeah.
That was in Studio A. We were in Studio B, which is a slightly smaller studio down the hall. But it was
Going
just
there?
a magical experience. Recording there, you know, feeling the energy of all of the amazing music that's been made in that studio. It was a really like warm and encouraging space. Yeah, it was an intense week for sure. We were in the studio for 5 days, pretty much all day. So
The studio is a different beast. It's fun, but it is work. At the end of the day, labors of love are still labor. But the results are fantastic. So if folks haven't heard this new record yet, we're about to right now. I'm going to play a track off of this new record, Bloom, called This Time Last Week, here on KFAI. This is Sprig of That on Desert Islands. You still hear me?
Mhm.
Perfect. It's like I might be asking you that a lot just because it is live, and anytime I press a button, there is the possibility of that just be like, ooh, done. So it's mainly for my own peace of mind. But yeah, so like, how was it? Where did you stay in Nashville? Like, did you have? Is that a studio like Pachyderm that just kind of has a little bedroom place, or did you have to just like find some friends to crash with while you're working down there?
We ended up just getting an Airbnb. One thing that Wes recommended, he's like, you know, it's really worth it just to everybody have your own bed. Your own bedroom. We didn't quite make it that far. Ilana and I had bunk beds, but
But it was a full-size bunk bed.
Whoa!
Which I thought was interesting. Though my top, I felt like I couldn't move without creaking the whole bed, and that sort of wigs me out. So like I sleep like like the whole night I'm like moving very slowly, so as to like try not to.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
It's okay. But yeah, that was sort of a pro tip. He was like, "I'm going to work you hard. You're all going to want to be able to do this.
Yeah,
your own bed, maybe even your own space."
Yeah, so we rented an Airbnb for the week, which was another part of the expense. We ended up doing a Kickstarter campaign to help fund the whole project about a year ago, because it was a big thing.
Yeah. I like being able to stay in a place together too, like, I don't know, cooking together, I feel like is always really fun.
that is a very underrated form of intimacy, you know, like intimacy in like the platonic definition of the word that I just don't think people miss out on that. Like that's a really good like unifying bonding experience to just cook anything together. Especially when you're trying to do creative work, which is I don't know. I feel like everyone has like a different perspective on this because I've met a lot of musicians who love the repetition of just like, oh no, we're like sculpting and it's exciting. But like I also know a lot of musicians who feel like every record is like a breakup. You know, by the time you're done with the record, you're like, I'm sick of looking at this thing, and it, you know what? It's on its own now. It's fine. I'm sure it'll do well for itself. But I need space. I don't want to listen to this anymore.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's also just kind of like it's invigorating, but it is also just it can be kind of like mind numbing of like after a while you're like I don't know, is this good? What is it? Or is this what we're looking for? And then you listen back and you got it on like the second take. That's usually my experience, where it's just like, why did I do 10 takes? The first one was fine.
Yeah, that's why it was so nice to have Wes, because I had never worked with a producer before, really, and it was just like, oh, there's somebody keeping track of all of that. I don't have to like keep track of what felt good or what was actually good, and then like go back and be like, I don't know, maybe this take, maybe that take. He was just like very detailed, taking notes about all of it.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And not just keeping track of it, but like, when Wes would say that was good, it'd be like, okay, well, I trust you.
Yeah.
I don't have to make that call now.
We put a lot of trust in him, and it was really freeing to just be able to like focus on the music, and then he'd be like, okay, let's try that again, but like think about this time, and and then trust when he'd be like, yeah, we've got it, like let's move on.
Yeah.
It's wild too, because sometimes I've definitely worked with producers where it's like I get so in my own head about like the technical things in a performance that like you need someone to do that, because otherwise like the take where I'm just like, yes, that was the one, and then like the producer would be like, no, that was good, that's fine. You're like, really? I don't know. And then you listen back and you're like, it was fine. And then you listen to the take where you're like, I think we should really check out this one, and it like just doesn't do the thing you thought it was doing in your head at the time. And it's a lot like those like 3-hour lectures in college, which is like why they're trying to phase those out, because like there is diminishing returns. If you're doing something the same thing, like 90 minutes is kind of the limit before your brain is kind of getting its eye off the prize a little bit, or it's looking at a third thing that like it. Yeah. And it's always a learning experience. And yeah.
While you're playing, like, you have no idea what's going on.
No,
You don't know what it sounds like. You don't know if it's good. I feel like I get so caught up in what I'm doing that sometimes I think something is one way and it's actually the other, or I don't know. It's really like, especially with something that's like more difficult.
Yeah.
That really clouds my perspective in a certain way. Like sometimes the feeling of being able to do it feels to me like an achievement, but I think when I listen to it, it's like, well, yeah, it sounds hard, and that's not the idea. I don't.
Right. It's like kind of, especially in overdubs, where it's like you have those where it's just like, okay, we got a good take, but I had this idea to have like this little thing in the background, and it's like really technically hard to play. And then you listen, and it's just like you just need someone to kind of pull back and be like, I'm very happy for you, but no one is going to care about that. That is not going to like tug any heartstrings. Like it's very technically difficult, but I don't really think it's adding anything.
Yeah,
and
we had a few moments like that with Wes too. Like, he helped us with the arrangements, for like 5 or 6 months before the recording session. But then,
sure,
even in the day of, we'd be changing little things. He's like, that like strumming pattern's just not quite working.
Yeah.
Or maybe you shouldn't play that pizzicato. Can you try it bowed? I'm like, oh man. But like, he was right.
Just, I'm just spitballing. I'm not thinking of anything in particular here.
There was one spot that I had practiced so much with pizzicato. And then Wes is like, no, that's not it.
It's always that too, where it's just like, okay.
But I did do it. I was like, I know you can. You should.
Yeah.
It's like it's a lot like adding too much garlic. I love garlic, but there is a point where it's just like, whoa, like there is also another part of the dish that I think most people are kind of want to taste. And it's you need that perspective there. And it's an art in itself, production. Like it's like I've heard those like stories of like Rick Rubin working with artists and just kind of like staying back, but there's like a really funny story of like when he worked with ZZ Top, like they were just doing takes upon takes upon takes, and like even ZZ Top, who has been in the game for decades and decades, you know, like they kept doing takes, and they're just all looking at each other like, well, boys, maybe it's time to hang it up. Maybe we don't have it. You know, it's like we can't get this. I don't, you know. So they finally, after one take, they're like, Rick, how we doing here? And they're like, oh, you nailed it on the first take. We just like hearing you play.
Wow.
That's like there is like, you just kind of need someone there, because even like the people who've been doing it forever, I think it's just such a human response when you're doing something that personal to you, to get in your own head, and then it's like you're just living there. You know, there's music being made in the room, but you're not even in that room. You're in your head.
Yeah,
Totally. Yeah.
it's like taking your own advice. Like, it's easy to give advice to other people, but when taking your own advice, like, we're not that good at that.
I like that, because it's so true too. And it's just, well, especially like in music industry, like, there's always that people who are like, you know what you should do? It's just like, don't listen to that guy. Because if that were true, that guy would be already doing it. And it's like, I think every artist is going to have a different formula. Like, there's definitely like tips on like how to do something more efficiently, but like, as far as marketing, like, it's not going to work for everybody, because everyone has a different sound, and everyone has a different audience that has a different reason for wanting to come to things. And you know, it's just like, I don't know, no one knows. Like, it's
trying stuff.
absolutely. Okay, so after this track, but it's kind of a long one, it's Humbird. We'll be back on the air, and just want to make sure we actually delve into like the details of the release show. We can obviously do that now, but like, there's a new audience every 15-ish minutes on radio. There are some folks that like to watch these videos and listen at the same time, but like, I've actually noticed there's like kind of like a segmented audience. Like, there's an audience that like only watches the video, they never listen to the show. And then there's like a whole audience that's just like, you do video? Do I have to pay for that? I don't want Facebook to have my information. It's like, it's fine. You don't need it. It's also on YouTube. You can watch it if you want. So just to kind of, there are some details where I might ask you to reiterate, and that's going to be one of them, because the whole reason you're here is to promote this show. So we're definitely going to be kind of leaning into that with this break. But the only reason I bring this up is, one, to make sure we have like a compass of where we are in the show. But two, I always kind of have a few questions I want to ask, but if there's anything specific to this release, or something you have cooking coming up, like maybe some more road dates, just let me know, and I can find a way to just shoehorn that into the conversation, rather than we just kind of be like, oh, before we go, you know, it'd be kind of like that. So just let me know. But otherwise, yeah, that's kind of where we're at in the show. I guess one question I do have is, how did you get linked up with the OK Factor? Have you been playing shows often, or was this just kind of like it came together? I'm like, oh yeah, that'd be great. We should definitely do that.
We love the OK Factor. I think one of our first shows, we played with them back in like 2018.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, we got connected with them early on, kind of like, hey, you're also doing kind of folk crossover stuff in the 20s. You knew.
Yeah,
you knew
I had played with them in past iterations and past bands, and yeah, just like being part of the Minneapolis music scene for a long time. I've always been admirers of what they do.
They're really cool.
They're amazing.
So once we started doing what we do, we've played like quite a few shows with them, like backyard shows at Olivia's house, and you know, other kind of collaborations. And then actually Olivia played cello on her album.
Yeah.
So
oh wow.
Yeah, it'll be kind of a special show, but you know, we're both doing this, you know, it's our album release, our 5-year band anniversary, their 10-year band anniversary. So it'll be a really special show, and it's going to be a little different. We're going to collaborate on more tracks and stuff
Nice.
throughout the show.
It's gonna be just one set instead of sort of them going or us going and then the other going. We'll all get to be on stage. We're gonna try to foster a bunch of interaction between the bands. It's gonna be really casual and cool and fun. And
I love that, actually, because and I don't know if it's just like the older I get, the more I kind of feel like especially like I used to be like 4 band bills, let's stick to 3. Now I'm just like 2 band bills, two. Let's and even then it's just like, do we need the second separate there, fellas? Are we married to the so I love the idea of just kind of, well, also like the theatrical setting too just kind of lends itself to just like, no, let's have it all this whole big living breathing production, rather than the like, all right, go to the bathroom, get some, and then like you start again and like 1/3 of the audience is just like, wait, what? I thought they were gonna flicker the lights, and and then for like 3 songs you're playing and then everyone trickles back in, and then it's like I think it's like for the audience too, it's it's like watching a movie. Then it's like one 90-minute to 120-minute thing. Then they can go have drinks or get an appetizer somewhere, and it's like I think the set break thing is really like, there are audiences that are kind of like conditioned. Like I would say the jam scene, it's like it's just expected that there's an intermission. Like but like with a lot of other things, I just like the feeling of like it's all part of the show, rather than so that's going to be really cool. Who is first on the we're like 30 seconds. Let's save that for when we're on air. I might ask you to repeat that point again. But yeah, stand by. We are at about now, so Humbird off of Still Life. We also heard New OK Factor off of OKX. We had them on last week. We did Share a Pint, but that is a song called Sonia. And then this time last week, Sprig of That at the top of that set, who here on Desert Islands is joining me right now, both virtually off mic. If I can see that some of y'all are watching with us off mic, but if you are not doing that at home, yes, we're streaming video. Please don't do it while you're driving. It gets archived. You can watch it later. Please don't do that. But yes, we are here with Sprig of That, whose mixtape is today. I'm making a mixtape for Sprig of That today. So let's talk about the show at the Parkway Theater with the OK Factor, because I really like this idea of how you structured the entire evening's music program. Because we were kind of talking off mic about like, usually like this band does a set and then there's a break and this. So like, how are you integrating everything together? Because it's their 10-year anniversary and your 5-year anniversary. It seems like this thing is going to be like one giant celebration at the Parkway Theater this weekend. It's April 1st, yes?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're gonna switch off. Everybody's gonna be on stage at the same time, and we'll play a tune, they'll play a tune, but both of our new albums have guest artists on them.
Yeah.
So Olivia played with us on the album, so she's going to play with us on a tune. And we also have our friend Mikey Margette on cello, who will be playing with us for a few others. And then they have the folks from Orange Mighty Trio and as well as Anthony Eyrig joining them.
Anthony's great.
I'm going to play with them. So yeah, one set, everyone plugged in, everyone on stage at the same time. It's sort of going to be like, we're all hanging out and sort of swapping songs back and forth. And it should be really cool and interesting.
Mm-hmm. I love that. So it's this weekend at the Parkway Theater. When does music start?
8 p.m.
8 p.m. Great. So if you like if folks like what they heard, where can they hear it again? Is this album available now, or is it just available to stream?
It's available wherever you listen to stuff. Spotify, Apple, Amazon, whatever. We're on Bandcamp as well. YouTube. We have CDs, and we will have vinyl later in the year.
Nice. Vinyl is a whole journey in and of itself. Just pressing it, and then the waiting game around pressing it. So that's wonderful. You have something to look forward to from Sprig of that, who I'm making a mixtape for today on Desert Islands. If you're just tuning in, this is Desert Islands. I'm your host. You can call me Doc, and this is where I make a mixtape for my guests based on the 10 records they would bring to a desert island. And today's mixtape is for Sprig of that. I believe we actually made it through the entire mix of your desert island picks, but we have a few tracks that I think would fit well in it, but I'm a bit of a talker, so if we don't get a chance to hear all of those tracks, I will post a link to the Spotify mixtape. There will be a whole list where you can get the whole mixtape and listen to it without the talk breaks and flow right through. But let's get into some more regional music. This is a band on Weeds Records down in Winona. It's a new group of musicians that play in a few different bands in the Driftless. Now they're coming together for a new project called Doug Boodle. So here is a track called That's Rough by Doug Boodle. Still hear me? Yeah? Perfect. Okay, so after this set, let's see, hold on. Let me do the math real quick. 40, 45, yeah. So after this set, I'm going to have to play some underwriting cards just because, oh no. I'm sorry. We're dead. So now that our phone is on link to Zoom, and I'm doing the vid chat, I can't, I know you're calling in, but I can't answer the phone right now. Thank you for calling. If I answer the phone, I'm afraid I'm going to kick off this chat, and I really don't want to do that, but I appreciate you calling. Leave a comment if it's urgent. I would do my best to have my ADD brain wrangle and focus on the comments. I know I am not really good at doing that real time. I can see you're commenting on Twitch and next year. So thank you for that. But yeah, sorry, where were we? Oh, yes. Underwriting parts. I'm going to have to do that just because if I don't do it, I have no idea where I'm going to fit those in. So that'll be before the next talk break. We'll just play a bunch of cards and then we'll be back. So now I have to ask a really nerdy question for me because I love your instrumentation, and I'm sure y'all have been asked this before, but how did the idea of this instrumentation come together? Was this always like y'all were friends and just kind of like jamming and going like, oh, you know what this could need, you know, or from the get-go, did you have the idea of like, I want this mix. I want this mix of instruments, this mix of tones. Like, was it a natural thing that just came together, or was this like architected?
Yeah, I think it was less specific. So basically, I went to this workshop and met a mutual friend of Ilan and Isabel's, and got really into like listening to more folk music and more instrumental folk music. And then I met Ilan and Isabel through this friend, and then heard that they were moving to Minneapolis. And so then we decided to jam together, kind of knowing that they were like into the same styles. And then it went really well and was super fun. So we jammed together a few times, and then we were like, let's do this. Let's be a band.
Yeah. So how did you start with tabla? Just because that's definitely an instrument I feel like people think they could play it, but it's not an easy instrument to play. Like, I think people watching it, they're like, yeah, I could probably do that. It's like, nah, Sparky, I don't think you could.
I mean, it's a tough instrument to start on. And I always tell my students that, like, you know, getting the basic sounds is the trickiest part, but
Yeah.
you know, what you get a little more satisfaction once you get the basic sounds down.
Yeah.
But yeah, I went to Northern Illinois University for my undergrad, and they have a lot of global music going on there. And my professor had offered a tabla class because he had actually studied with Zakir Hussain when he was younger. And so I took the class and I got really into it, and I wrote an undergraduate grant to go to Mumbai, which is how I got hooked up with my teacher. And so, yeah, then once I moved up to Minneapolis for grad school for percussion. And then once I was done with that, I was like, I kind of just want to play tabla. So that's what I did. Yeah.
That's amazing. Because I've heard from a lot of tabla players that, like, they all kind of say, like, well, eventually, if you're going to get serious, you got to go spend some time in India. and like, actually, just because I feel like there is, like, certain, I feel like music theory is treated as, like, this weird thing where it's just like, no, this is, you know, I'm doing the Ben Shapiro voice on purpose because I'm secretly throwing shade on him. It's like, no, this is music theory and this is how it works. And it's always worked this way. It's like, no, cultures around the world have their own music theory. And it's like that there's like this own, like, it's not set in stone. It's a language. It's a living, breathing thing, what music is to every culture. And like, Dakota Dave Hull, who I started doing the calendar on his program, he always said, like, I feel like with certain musical traditions, you kind of have to speak the language to get it right. Like, there's a lot of hot club stuff that, like, I feel like the rhythms would make a little bit more sense if you were fluent in French.
Really, yeah.
And it's,
I love what you said, that it's like a living, breathing thing, because I think that's really true. And also just like in terms of like the pedagogy and like the music education, it's like so much more integrated for musicians who start out and decide to get serious, who are Indian or living in India. You know, like, you go study with your guru, and it's like, it's not just you studying with your guru, but you like kind of become part of their life, really.
Yeah.
And and it's just like so much more integrated. So even to get like a little bit more of that type of experience, or like a little more immersion, is like so helpful and important, I think.
It's really, like, I also think the pedagogy from Eastern cultures, I think a lot of Westerners, like, just can't wrap their brain around, because, like, there is that, like, little punk rocker to be like, I don't need anyone telling me what to do. I can just pick up an instrument and do it. And I was definitely one of those kids. Like, I was self-taught, but like, now looking back, I'm definitely, there are times where I'm just like, I kind of wish I had a guru. It's just like, I'm not waiting to 30 to like perform live, man. I'm going to do it now. And it's just like, no, I think you could really benefit from something like that. And because there is you're being taught about what music is for the community too. Like, when you're kind of learning about, like, oh yeah, right, it's not about me. Yeah. Huh. Another thing that's kind of hard for Westerners to wrap their head about. It's like, it's not just because you have a spotlight. I know it's really, I know it's really confusing, where it's like, you got all these lights on you, where it's just like, me. It's just like, yes, for that moment, it kind of is about you, but it's really about all the people who came to the room to see you. So like, it's kind of an illusion that it's about you.
Yeah, it's about like the connection and the relationships, and yeah, totally.
That's so. How long after did this band kind of form? Like, you did all that training, and then, like, did you all always know each other, or was this kind of like a, I'm in this state now, and oh, by the way, I have this training, you have this training, you have, or like, or so were you friends before this band?
No, not really. This is sort of how we became friends. Yeah, was by meeting and playing, and decided we want to keep doing that.
That was 5 years ago, which is not 5 years is kind of a weird number because it on its surface like both feels like a long time and no time at all. And I think a lot of bands, like, especially when they get going and like they try to find their sound, like it's like it can be frustrating where it's just like, why isn't this taking off? It's like, well, realistically, it takes 5 years for people to like feel like you just started a year ago, if that makes sense. Where it's like it takes 5 years and then all of a sudden people are like, there's this new band. And then I feel like the 10-year mark is where like that kind of starts to happen in places outside of your hometown, where like then people out of state are going like, there's this new band. And it's just in band years, it's just like, man, we've been at it forever. But like just because there's so much music, it kind of takes 5 to 10 years to do that. So it's one, what a remarkable accomplishment to make it to 5 years. It's pretty cool. But like, how do you feel about a 5-year anniversary, especially since a lot of those years kind of were a time warp considering the everything?
Yeah, it's been a wild time. I mean, we got together in 2018, kind of were figuring out how to play together. And then 2019 was really great. Did a lot of stuff. And then didn't do as much like performing for the next few, but it was actually a really special time because we also kind of all decided, okay, maybe in the next couple of years, we want to move different places. Elon wanted to go to grad school. I wanted to go back to Portland. So we already kind of had that idea. So then it, you know, kind of took the pressure off of performing, and we just rehearsed a whole lot, you know, in 2020, 2021. We put out another album, and then we really started diving into the material for this Bloom album, you know, fine tuning tunes we already had and also writing new ones. We just wrote a lot.
Did you get to perform? Well, not perform, but like, did you actually get to spend time during like the height of the pandemic, like just in a room, like working stuff out? Or did you have to do a lot of virtual, like, collab here? Because I feel like your music, and maybe I'm putting words in your mouth, I feel like your music like needs to be performed all together. Like there's a certain third, like, or like fourth member that kind of happens when you're all performing together. You know, like if you tried to track separately, the certain elements of the magic just wouldn't.
Yeah, especially early on, a lot of our stuff is improvised as we're working out ideas and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, like, you know, we did a few virtual collaborations, but then we decided, you know, let's just mask up. We did, you know, in the nice season, we rehearsed outside, and then, or we rehearsed in Chrissy's apartment with masks on for a while. Yeah, just made that choice to, like, you know,
This is something worth doing.
Yeah. That's actually kind of how my band LPF, we kind of did the same thing where we were like, we had material that we were like, well, should we just wait? And then we just kind of like, all right, let's just put the masks on and we'll rehearse it. And then we went into the studio and everyone had the masks on, because there's just certain songs that you need all 4 people playing live, where it's like just not, you know, the emotion you're going for is like just not, it's like hard to capture that lightning in a bottle without the musicians communicating with each other in real time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what a strange I feel like every once in a while you get that Facebook thing where it's just like on this date, and like I feel like those pandemic mask like studio pictures are just gonna hit different, because I did a few sessions where it's like, all right, everyone masks up, where it's like now I look at those photos and it's just like, that is wild. This is like, this is what an existence. Like, what is happening? But yeah, enough of the pandemic talk. I feel like this is just going to become like a Joe Rogan podcast. It's like, okay.
I don't think you could if you tried. So,
I need supplements to sling and a friend who does MMA for some reason. Like, okay, so after this track, which is going to be over in about 50 seconds, we'll be back, but got to get those underwriting carts in, and they are about like 30 seconds each. So after that, we'll be close to like 10 minutes left in the show, and I got to make sure I end it on time because the program that is after this is Democracy Now! And I do not have the clout to bump Amy Goodman, so I I got to be on time. She's doing the big work. I'm just having fun with knobs in the studio here. So after that, we'll be like our last talk break. So it might be like reiterate like, hey, new record, hey, the show, and anything you want to plug thereafter. It'll be kind of like the last radio break. And yeah, that's just kind of where things are landing. Stand by. We got about 10 seconds here.
KFAI is proud to present Emmanuel Wilkins at the Dakota on Wednesday, April 5th. The saxophonist and composer.
Cool.
Emmanuel Wilkins is touring.
All right, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 of them. And then, oh, they're all different lengths. This is the thrilling, watching digital paint dry. Like the thrilling aspects of behind the scenes of radio. Okay, this one's a little bit short. Next one's a little bit short. Next one's a little bit longer, actually. Yeah. Come on. Is there, because I know we want to do the focus on this performance this weekend. I know you're kind of on the road ending a bit of a tour right now. Are there more dates you want to talk about after this, or do you want to just kind of focus on this performance?
We're headed to Colorado April 14th weekend, and then to the Pacific Northwest in early June.
Maybe the one worth mentioning, though, they just announced we're going to be a part of Blue Ox in Eau Claire.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. That's
going to be a regional one.
Yeah. That was announced this morning. So
nice. That one's June
22nd to 24th.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry you're calling back. I'm still on the vid chat. We'll have. I'll be off in a second. Just want to make sure we're not prematurely ending this thing. So I appreciate your patience. But I can't answer the phone. I'm sorry. Stand by. And before we heard that message delivered very smoothly by our own Ryan Dawes, we had Doug Boodle at the top of that set. We also had a new track by The Briefly Gorgeous and a new track by Doyle Turner featuring Sarah Morris right there. If you're just tuning in, this is Desert Islands. This is the show where I make mixtapes for my guest based on the 10 records they would bring to a desert island. And today's mixtape is for Sprig of That, who are playing the Parkway Theater this weekend, April 1st. Is new records out now, or does it come out April 1st?
It came out about a month ago, February 10th. So it's out. Go listen to it. Yeah, it's called Bloom.
Where is the best place for folks to find you if they like what they heard earlier? Do you have a preferred place on the interwebs you'd like to direct folks?
Our preferred service is Bandcamp.
Mm-hmm.
That.bandcamp.com. The most money goes to the artists through that platform.
Yeah.
But
it's our website probably
our website
too. Yeah. Which will also link you right to the Bandcamp. Easy to find.
It's all back to Bandcamp. So April 1st at the Parkway Theater, it's a dual release show with Sprig of That and the OK Factor. OK Factor is celebrating 10 years. Sprig of That is celebrating 5 years, which is I love that synchronicity. That's pretty cool. So anything folks can look forward to from Sprig that in the future? Is there anything they can look forward to as the year progresses into 2023?
Yeah, we just announced this morning we'll be at Blue Ox Music Festival in Eau
Nice.
Claire, June 23rd on the Backwoods stage.
That's gonna be fun. Yeah.
We're pretty excited about that. We've been fans of Blue Ox for a while and been like, hey, let us in. We're so glad they finally did.
Yeah. No, that's like I feel like they always get an amazing mix of both local and regional talent, but like from around the country. And then they will always have like, you get legends like Sam Bush on a lineup, or like they do a good job curating that lineup. So congrats. That's going to be a really good bill. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. I know you're on the road and I know that can be crazy. Add that into a release press junket, which is also crazy on its own. So thank you so much for taking the time to hang out with me this morning.
Thanks so much, Doc.
Thank
This was really
you.
fun.
Yeah, this is great. So today's mixtape has been for Sprig of That. I've been hanging out with them this morning. I mentioned there is a pretty cool show this Monday featuring Pit Stop. So let's listen to some Pit Stop here on KFAI. Yeah, Blue Ox is like, I think that's like the coolest regional festival in my opinion, just because like they're consistently good lineups, you know, where it's like, but it's hard to do a festival. Festivals are hard. I feel like there's like so many of those festivals that are run by people who are like, they just kind of think it's a party. They're like, I could probably do that. It's like, what are you going to do about bathrooms there, Chief? Did you think about that? How about food for the people attending your festival? Did you think about where are people going to sleep? You know, like there's like this, all those aspects. It's like why festivals, you know, come and go. But that one is like, I think that's like one of the best ones in the country, let alone the Midwest. So that'd be cool. Do you know what time you're playing?
Like 11 a.m. or something. We're kind of an early, you know, get your coffee, come hang, chill.
I mean, in the woods at like that time of day, I feel like that would be a really good vibe, actually. You know,
Yeah.
just like,
Yeah, it fits.
Yeah.
are you going to be camping the whole time? Or are you just going to be like, all right, we're here and then thanks, and we're going to head out? Like,
Yeah, we'll definitely be there for at least a chunk of it, and we're really looking forward to hanging out and playing with people, meeting people, just being a part of the festival.
Yeah.
It's beautiful scenery up there too.
Mhm.
I think one of the people I was really excited and kind of disappointed because the fact that he's on the lineup means he's probably not going to come back to the Twin Cities this year is Joshua Ray Walker. One of those, like, he's just kind of got it all. Like his band's really good and they got like those good like honky tonk shit kicker songs, but they also have like, he's just a master at writing the Tears in Your Beers songs. Like he just has a few of them where like I worked his show at the Turf Club and he had one where I literally had to like just walk behind the stage because I was crying. I was just like, I'm just gonna like, it's just like, it's just so good. But he's definitely an act. It's pretty psyched to see on that lineup. Anyone you're hoping to see? Are you like same day? Because I think they announced the schedule.
I mean, I'm excited to see Sam Bush and hopefully reconnect with our producer buddy Wes.
That would be cool. That's a fun reunion.
Really excited to see. I live in Colorado these days, and there's a band
nice.
Out of the Front Range called Big Richard that's going to
Okay.
be at Blue Ox, and I've seen most of them play at this point individually on their own in Colorado.
Nice.
They're just like so good. I can't wait to see them out here and maybe have a chance to interact a little bit. That was like a rub shoulders, but maybe
It's like,
I'm not trying to fight them. I'm not really trying to fight anyone.
you, me, backwoods, let's go.
Oh, they would destroy me. So
I'm not a fighter. It's why I do this. Not my vibe at all. It's Sam Bush is like, the first time I got to see him, we were at the Telluride Bluegrass Festival, and he sat in with everybody because he can. Like, it's like, it's so hard to be able to do that. I feel like at festivals, like, there's like this weird illusion that it's like a television program and like everyone knows each other, but it's just like a lot of times when that happens, it's just like, oh yeah, cool. Do you want to just play a tune? And like, you're coming in cold. You're just like, you're just going up. So the fact that he was like sitting in with everybody, it just shows how good Sam Bush is. Like, the name's legendary for a reason, folks. Like, that guy is so good. And anyone who's going to be playing with him is going to be a monster player too. So yeah, it'll be fun. Especially since y'all have that connection. I hope you get to like actually spend some time and kind of like, get the gang back together, so to speak. So here's where we're at as far as time goes. We have 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Is there anything you would like the listeners to know about before we get going here? I know you mentioned some Colorado and West Coast dates. Are those like ironed out? Have they been announced yet? Or would I be pushing for trade secrets at this point? If you're not ready to announce them, totally cool. But if so, some people do kind of tune in from out of state, and might be good to let them know.
Yeah, we've sort of been trickling them out. There have been about the Colorado ones are in a couple weeks, and those are announced. Some of the West Coast ones, a couple have started to appear. I think the best thing to do is just keep your eyes peeled on our social media or on our website, on our tour page, and we're just rolling them out as they come.
Nice. Are you doing a full on West Coast run?
We're kind of doing Pacific Northwest. So there's a big Portland show June 3rd at the Old Church, and a Seattle show June 8th at the Triple Door.
Nice.
So those are kind of our big ones. And then we're doing a smattering of other smaller venues and house shows as well.
Yeah.
The house show scene is critically overlooked, especially here, because I think a lot of people associate house shows with like the punk scene, and there is a vibrant house show community for the punk scene, but I think people forget like there are several house communities that like host roots music and folkier based stuff and more even jazz, and it's like we're really lucky that we have that network. But especially on the road, I think sometimes the house shows are like the best shows, or at least sometimes they are. So that'd be fun. Are you going to be flying back, or are you going to be kind of building a tour to work your way back to Blue Ox from June?
We'll be coming in probably just for the week or so, or the half week, and we're working on like one or two other things, but we'll probably just be at Blue Ox and a few kind of regional things.
Sure, makes sense. It's a tough haul. Well, that sounds amazing. And now that we have about 20 seconds left, I'm going to have to end the call, but this was great. It was great to hang out with you. I had a lot of fun. Hopefully you did as well. And I appreciate you taking the time out of your tour and day to do this. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Of course. All right. I'm getting a flash, which means I gotta do the thing. Thank you so much. I'm gonna end the call. It's great. Congrats on the release record, and hope to see you catch a show in person soon.
Thank you.